think Civil War is going to go the way that conservatives often talk about it going. So, what's up, everybody? Let's talk about Civil War. Um, since the first Civil War in America, everybody and their mother has taught every time something drastic happens, they think, "Oh no, it's a civil war. What are we gonna do?" And that's probably an overreaction. Um, well, one thing I've noticed, and maybe participated in, to tell the truth, is I think that conservatives often act like, oh, well, we're the ones with all the guns. We'll be all right in the Civil War. I don't think it's going to be that simple. And I have several reasons for that. I think that we need to be careful about how we're acting with that. Number one, if you watched a lot of the same stuff that I did, especially like 2015, 2016, the rise of Antifa, which kind of is similar to what was going on in World War II and the rise of Hitler. You had these Antifa, these anti-fascists who were pro-communism, running around destroying stuff. And what did Hitler promise? That he would stop. He'd bring a stop to the violence. But if you look at, and I'm not saying that that means we're going to have a Hitler or that Trump is Hitler. What I'm saying is, because I think, sorry, let me finish that. Because I think you can bring an end to violence without becoming a tyrannical dictator like Hitler. So we'll just add that there. One thing we found out is how organized Antifa really was, and even still is. So what they lack in battle tactics, they make up for in organization behind the scenes. So if you've ever seen them, like, we also saw the rise of what is that other group? I don't remember, the one that everybody claimed Trump was secretly supporting. Whatever they were, like, they were patriots who called themselves patriots who went and physically fought back against Antifa. What we saw was that those guys could kick the butts of just about anybody in Antifa because they're just a bunch of whiny kids who had no idea what they were doing. But behind the scenes, they were super organized. And we never really found out how high that ladder goes. Somebody was paying for all those losers to get out and create violence. Now, a lot of that's kind of died down, especially after the 8 months of rioting in 2020. We a lot of that's kind of gone behind the scenes. We still see Antifa show up from time to time, but they're not quite as open as they used to be. So I think that one of the things conservatives don't think about is just how organized Antifa really is. And if there is a civil war, Antifa's going to be on the other side. Let's be real. And so these guys are already organizing ways to take over city blocks. They've organized how to, destroy huge sections of cities, burn down, all this, and get away with it. Now, some of that has to do with incompetent leadership, or leadership that's unwilling to, stand up against them, or is complicit in their behavior, or willing to, ignore it. But I think the left, even though many of them are not cut out really to fight in a civil war. I think that we're gonna find, if it comes down to that, hopefully we never do. Hopefully we never have a civil war. I think we'll find that they're a lot more organized than we are. Because conservatives aren't like, hey, let's get together and plan for a civil war. Like, our hope is to avoid a civil war. Let's do everything, put all of our energy into avoiding a civil war. But I wouldn't put it past Antifa to be like, okay, when things go down, we're going to have this backup plan ready. So there's one point. Number two, like I was saying, there's this idea in conservatives, like, oh, well, we have all the guns. Well, that's not true. See, contrary to common belief, people like Antifa who oppose gun ownership are willing to own guns for the sake of their communist agenda. So it's okay for them to own guns in the meantime while they're fighting for no gun ownership. I mean, I don't know how they square that circle, but they're already illogical if they're communists, so it's okay, I guess. But they have lots of weapons, and I don't think that conservatives who haven't been in like military or police, like myself, I mean, I'm too lazy to be that. I eat too much to stay in all that. Who've never killed somebody. I think it'll be a lot more difficult for us to do that than a lot of conservatives are willing to admit. Like, they have this high ideal of standard. Oh man, I'm gonna be awesome. Like, I'm gonna take down a bunch of commies or Antifa who are trying to stop or kill my family. But then it's gonna be a lot more difficult when they're shooting back at you. But also, they have weapons. It's not like there's a bunch of unarmed rabble. They have weapons, and if statistics are right, there might be a lot more of them than us. I don't know that that's true, but polls are polls. I don't always think that they can really represent all of reality, but it's interesting to think about. And I think there's going to be a lot of people who don't have anything to do with the war. There's a lot of pacifists, a lot of people who are going to try to stay neutral, and so yeah, that's another thing to think about. But lastly, I think the big thing is they've got all the keys to the kingdom right now, and what I mean by that is they have all the branches of government. They have the military, they have the police, they have all of these forms of power now. To be fair, many of the soldiers are on our side, many of the police are on our side, maybe even the majority of them. But there's a difference between being on our side for politics and being on our side in the middle of a civil war. That's a big gulf to cross. Because if bullets start firing, and again, Lord willing, never will happen. I don't want a civil war. We've already been through one. I don't want another one. But if there is another one, when the bullets start firing, people start to figure out which side they're on, if any. And sometimes it becomes different than all the rhetoric that they said they were going to be on. And some of that will be because of the reasons for the Civil War. So, like, if you look at the Civil War in America, you had people like Stonewall Jackson, who disagreed with the idea of slaves. Like, he was pro freeing slaves, but he was also a Virginian, and all of his family and friends were from Virginia. And so when Virginia seceded from the country, from the U.S., he went with Virginia because it was his home. And when the North invaded Virginia, I'm pretty sure it's Virginia that he's from. Could be wrong. Sorry if I am. But if I remember correctly, this is his story. He fought for Virginia. He didn't fight for slavery. He fought for his state, for his people. And I think we're going to see a lot of that. A lot of people who are like, well, my family's all on this side. I'm not going to shoot my family. So, for better or worse, I'm going to be on this side. I'd rather shoot people I don't know than people I do. And that's another thing when we think about Civil War. You're thinking about shooting people. So I'm a lot more hesitant to want a civil war when I start thinking about what are the ramifications of this. This is probably tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people who will die in a civil war. So let's avoid that at all costs. Maybe not all costs, but most costs. Let's do our very, very best to avoid a civil war, because that's what's best for the most amount of people. I mean, I'm not going to, put myself in the slavery of Marxism, but so I'll fight against that. But and I'm not going to allow other people to be enslaved by Marxism. But that's a whole nother story. So there are things worth going to war over to protect people from, being conquered. But I think we need to be careful about how we talk about Civil War, because it's not a pretty thing. It's a very, very terrible thing. And I'm not saying that people who don't know that Civil War is terrible. I just think when we joke about these memes, let's think about what we're really saying. So I guess the very last thing, and I think that is going to happen with this, is we have to think about nuclear war. And you think like, oh well, surely we wouldn't use nuclear weapons in a civil war. Imagine the biggest nuclear power in the world going at trying to kill each other. The nukes are in the bag, like they're in the bank account. You can't not imagine that if it gets bad enough, that somebody will start using nuclear warfare. I think we are like the pre-World War I, where we haven't experienced a war. I mean, our military has, and some police have been like in areas that feel like warfare, but the common man has not been in war. Most of the people who were in World War I and World War II, they're gone. And they're not going to be fighting in another war. Probably. Most of them. So most people have not actually experienced war, because it's been a long time since we've really gone to war. I mean, we did have Iraq, but again, that's military. But like the common man hasn't been to war. And I don't think in the pre-World War I, before the Archduke was murdered, there was this like ideal of warfare. Like there was almost this excitement to warfare, because everybody harkened back to the Great War of 1812, the Napoleonic Wars. Excuse me. These are the ideas that they were having, and when World War One broke out, it became a lot worse than everybody thought. It was awful. Trench warfare was invented, or if it wasn't invented, it was really took its first roots. It really finalized trench warfare and just how bogged down people were. And there's the scars of World War One still exist today in places in Europe. Same thing with World War Two. But there was like this idea of this great war, because the old wars, they were nothing compared to the new technology of how much guns had advanced, and how much guns really, like, rapid fire guns could really change how warfare worked. And I think the same way is us now with nuclear warfare. I don't think we've really thought through how much nuclear warfare is going to affect the next war. That's why I'm not eager to hop into a war with Russia or China. That's why I'm not eager to rush into a civil war with Americans. Because, like it or not, ever since we dropped the atom bomb in Japan, both bombs, we entered a different age. And we haven't really had a big war that is affected by that new change. And just imagine that this is, 80 years ago? 70, 80 years ago since that happened. And technology has only gotten better. So I don't think Civil War is going to go the way that conservatives think it's going to go, because we haven't thought about it. So, moral of the story: let's do everything we can to avoid a nuclear war, a civil war. I don't want to fight fellow Americans. I want them to live how they want to in their own place. Let's avoid that. Let's do our best to follow every avenue possible to prevent an all-out war in America. We're already in like a cold civil war, but let's do what we can to keep that from ever becoming hot. That's what I want. That's what I want. No hot civil war. Cold civil war is already bad enough. Let's not heat it up. I just did a video where I just talked a little bit. I don't know how insightful it was about Trump's house being raided by the FBI. So feel free to go check that out. Hopefully somebody gets something out of it. I don't know that my thoughts are really that insightful, but there you go. But yeah, so just some thoughts on the Civil War. Let me know what you think. Do you think conservatives are ready for a civil war or not? So I'll catch you next time. Peace.